Back to this page where I change things. There's the video. Into that This is like what you see on those, TV shows. Yeah, and making it. There it comes. Pull that up. There's about a 7-second delay. Yeah. I'm not going to worry about the slides. And I am going to worry about this. Is that safe to put right there? Nope. Oh, yep. Thank you. I want to be able to reach it though. Oh.
Norm, we're getting the back of your head.
You're okay. You're okay.
About time, somebody. Which direction do you want me to move?
Yes, we're live now, and it's on the website.
Yep, you're on.
That I'm sure.
All right, everyone.
Is that better?
Yep, perfect.
Fun is about to begin. Are you ready? So find your seats again, and we'll get started. So while we are all getting settled, I hope you enjoyed the food. How was the food? Good? Yeah? That was from the Hanover Food Co-op in the back. Wait, Emily. Thank you. Emily works for our community. She's our event guru, and she arranged for a wonderful dinner. So, housekeeping. There is trash right by Emily. She is Dana White trashing for you in the back there. There are bathrooms out the door into the fountain yet. Feel free over the course of the evening to get up, move around, use the restrooms, get yourself some extra food. And we have one other housekeeping note, which is that if you've ever been in this room before with us, you know that we have to be out of here by 8:30. So we're going to wrap up our Q&A at the end of the panel at 8 o'clock. But then we're going to need your help to pick up the chairs and stack them and get them in the back so we can all head home and the janitors can lock the gate. So just follow suit. We've got volunteers who help set up. Those of you who know us haul the training break down as a group. Good. So when you came in, we gave you a few things. One of them was this lovely agenda, and I'm just going to walk you through it briefly so you know what's coming. We are going to start with a quick round of introductions in a moment. Now, some of you may think we're crazy for doing this, but we are actually going to go around and you're each going to say your name, town you're from, and if you're a part of an energy committee, let us know that too, or some other organization. And we're going to do it quick, and we're going to make it around the whole room. And then after we're done with that, we're going to hear from our great sponsors. You saw them standing up around the room. They're just going to introduce themselves for us. And then we're going to get into my favorite part of the night, which is the 2-minute energy committee updates. Now, how many of you have experienced that before? Okay, so you know what to expect. I'll walk you through the with your answer. You know which one of you is going to be coming up to the mic and giving your 2-minute spiel. Okay? Great. And then once we're done with that, you'll hear from me and some of the other organizing groups about some of the current projects you should really know about. And then we'll hand it over to our panel. And we are lucky enough tonight to have panelists to talk to us about local energy policy. And I was on the phone with them last week to talk about what they're going to be presenting. And I promise you, it is not a snooze topic, even though it sounds like it might be. So we're looking forward to that. And with that, I have a few more thank yous to make. We have a great organizing committee. You can see them listed on the front of your agenda. Please give them a round of a hand because they did a really good job doing this. Also want to thank our sponsors. We'll hear from them in a moment. And also, could anyone from the Norwich and Hartford Energy Committee raise their hand and wave? These folks showed up early and they helped us pull the chairs out.
And directed traffic.
And directed traffic. We have audio equipment here, thanks to Carl Hemmenser and Bob Walker and Bob's friend Rick Barrows. Famous Rick, thank you. And of course, we have Bob, the green guy foreman here, streaming us live across the world. So thank you, Bob. And finally, Mary Chase. Wave your hand, Mary Chase. Aha, our photographer for the evening. You probably saw him sneaking around capturing shots. He may get up and do that again mid-event. So, yes. So now that we're done with the thank yous, let's go around and do 5-second introductions. So give your name, what town you're from, and what organization you're here with, either your town energy committee or some other group. And we'll start over here with Morty. Speak nice and loud.
Yes, Morton Bailey from Lime Green Heat. We're a renewable energy company based in Lyme, New Hampshire, delivering bulk wood pellets and installing central heating systems using wood pellets.
And we'll hear more from all the sponsors in a minute, so just name this time. You're fine.
I'm Bill Chipley from Newport. I moved to Vermont in the last 3 years. I guess you would say I'm a retired HVAC contractor and I'm ready to help whatever you need to serve. Bob Walker, Bedford Energy.
I'm Allie Samuel, Lime Next Gen Climate.
Ariel Arwen, Lebanon Energy. Judy Paula, Sierra Club Upper Valley.
Evan Oxman, Bakersfield Energy Committee. Ron Everhart, Plainfield Energy Committee.
Joanna Sharp, Cornish Energy Committee.
Michael O'Leary, Plainfield Energy Committee.
Mary Boyle, Cornish Energy Committee.
Nancy Whiteman, Savage Energy Committee.
Patrick Dixon, Work, Cornish Energy Committee.
Go down the back.
Rob Wolford, Eastman Community and Grant Energy.
Jenny Schoenberg, Grantham Energy and Eastman Energy. Christina Bergard, Grantham Energy Committee.
Scott Fitzpatrick, Grantham Energy.
Charlotte Pugh, Enfield Energy. Clifton Miwa, Lebanon Energy Advisory Committee.
Randy Kelly, same as Clifton.
John Chaffee, same as Randy and Clifton.
Eric Russell, Enfield Energy.
Michael Freud, Valley Lake Country Regional Planning Commission.
Kathy Geiger, Hartford Energy Commission, and the leader who goes to this. Ellen Gershom, Sun Common.
Chris Hebb, Dynamic Integrations, Wyndham Wood Heat, Bedford Energy Committee. Eric Gross, Town of Hartford Energy Commission. Paul Ferrero, Warford, Planning Board, and Washington.
Jamie Hess, New London Energy Committee.
Lisa Putnam, New York.
Traded for 2 draft choices.
Peter Benedict, also Town of London Energy Committee.
David Eastman, I'm with the Claremont School District, I'm the Energy Education Specialist.
Carolyn Manager, Newbury.
John Manager, Newbury, Vermont, transition. Brad Beachy, Newbury, Vermont, transition.
Rick Hausman, and the same thing. I'm Vic Hall, Windsor Energy Committee. Brian Hawk, Sharon Energy Committee.
Cronin, Red Elk Energy Committee and Red Elk Community Solar.
Joe Dunn, Penny Goodwall, President of the Energy Committee.
Gary Durham, Randolph Energy Committee.
Jim Phipps, Randolph Energy Committee.
Larry Richburg, Randolph Energy Committee.
Start down the front here. Okay.
I'm Patricia Higgins and serve the towns of Hanover and Lyme in the New Hampshire legislature.
Liz Ryan Cole, Sector Planning Commission and Building Co-housing in Lyme, New Hampshire.
Megan Wilson, Norwood Energy Committee, and science teacher at Harvard High School.
Linda Gray, Norwich Energy Committee.
Norman Levy, Norwood Energy Committee.
Rebecca McKenzie, Claremont, Norwood Energy Committee.
Jim Conchois, Claremont, on the third.
Andrew Jones, Washington, New Hampshire Energy Committee.
Rob Werner, I'm the state director for the League of Conservation Builders in New Hampshire. I also serve on the city council in Concord, and I chair our energy and environment committee.
I'm Julia Lloyd Wright. I'm the energy coordinator for Weathersfield, Vermont.
Dan Potter, I work at the Southern Windsor County Regional Planning Commission.
I'm Ben Civiletti here with the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network.
T. Gish, I'm with the Two Rivers Otter Creek Regional Commission and also the Sharon Energy Committee.
I'm Johanna Miller from the Vermont Natural Resources Council. Be fan with Ben, and I'm on the Montpelier Energy Committee.
Becca White, and I work for Sun Common, and I serve in the Hartford, Vermont Select Board.
Alan Johnson, many of you know me as chair of the Energy Commission, but I've been demoted to liaison as I was elected to the select board in March.
And why don't we go back to Bill?
Ralph Myma, Green Lantern Development, and also the Brattleboro Energy Committee.
Bacon, Orford Energy Committee.
Ellen Blumberg, Bedford Energy.
Emily Bryant, Warford Energy Committee. Kim Quirk with the Enfield Energy Committee and Energy Reporting.
Chris Wood, Bale, Building a Local Economy.
Dory Voldy and Wolf Energy.
Get back to here. Hey,
I meant.
No, we don't start with you.
Kevin Peterson with the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and a funder of a lot of these efforts, including Vital Communities, Negative, and Paris.
And I will take my own.
He's my boss. So
George Twig from Underhill, from the Office of Congressman Walsh.
Larry Chase, Hanover, New Hampshire, Hanover Energy Group.
Dave Harris, New London Energy Committee.
Jim Fett from Tarrant County, New Hampshire. I'm on the Energy Commission there, and I'm also on the Music Regional Energy team.
Barbara Duncan from the Fairleigh Energy Committee and Sarah Buckley of the Valley.
I'm Haley Farrow from Senator Bernie Sanders' office.
Lori Hartsfield of the Planning and Development Office in the town of Hartford and staff to the Hartford Energy.
Mark Goodman with the City of Lebanon Planning Office and with Lebanon Energy Advisory.
Mary Ormrod from the Cavendish Energy Committee.
Nick Cohen from Plainfield, New Hampshire. I'm with the New Hampshire Sierra Club.
Lee Cameron, I'm with the New England Grassroots Environment Fund and also representing the New Hampshire Local Energy Solutions.
Lauren Berry, Mr. Standard.
Bernie Folta, nosy Claremont citizen. And regional bird dog.
Charlie Corsi, Durham, New Hampshire, from the Seacoast area. Too far from my electric card, the leaves out there.
Why
We go back here to.
Bagley South Stratford, Vermont, with Catamount Solar. Bill Bender, Norwich, Vermont, Solar Energy.
Jonathan Teller Ellsberg, also Norway, Vermont, also Solar Energy.
Brett Mellon, Thetford, and Building Energy's Whitebrook Junction office.
And Carl?
Carl Chemnitzer, Heartland Energy Committee and CR Club Upper Valley.
And Bob?
And I'm Bob Farnham, or Bob the Green Guy online. And you can find the streaming event will be recorded and posted there in a few minutes when we're all done.
Great. Did we miss anyone? Wonderful, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to ask the sponsors to stand up and come join me because we're going to give it a little spiel here in a minute. So we have several great sponsors chip in to help make this about them. We wouldn't be eating. That's really important. Each of them is going to spend about a minute just introducing themselves and their company, so they can kind of orient themselves. You'll have a chance to go and talk to them again after the event, and these guys all live in our community, so you can kind of find them anytime. And Frank can start.
Hi, I'm Brett Mellon from Building Energy. I live in Thetford, and my office is in Whitebrook, and he's in Wilder. We offer a wide range of energy services. We typically start with an energy audit, and we do a lot of the work in-house that comes out of that energy audit. We have crews that do insulation and air sealing. We also do solar. We install heat pumps to provide more efficient heating and cooling, and it can be offset with the solar. We work with Efficiency Vermont to help every homeowner in Vermont get up to $2,000 in incentives. We also are participating with this new Zero Energy Now program that it's targeted at right now at former Central Vermont Public Service account holders, and it provides up to $5,000 in additional incentives for going above and beyond what most typical energy retrofits do. The idea is to try to go beyond the weatherization and add some renewable energy and some efficient heating, whether it's a heat pump or wood or pellet heat. So it's a pilot program for this year, and hopefully, if it's successful, we'll continue on next year with it. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Bill Bender. I'm president of SolarFlex Energy. With the support of a $2 million award from the Department of Energy, we developed a suspension PV tracker. This is Jonathan of what they look like. By tracking the sun, we get 40% more energy from the same solar panels compared to fixed modules. And also, the tracker is largely locally made, so for every solar dollar that's spent, there's more of that stays in Vermont, New Hampshire with us than with any other solar company in the area, as far as we know. In Vermont, we also have True Community Solar. There's a picture of one of our fields there. We don't sell the renewable energy certificates. And when renewable energy certificates are sold, usually to Massachusetts or Connecticut, the Vermont participants legally double their carbon footprint. The solar from Massachusetts, but for the Vermont participants, let's just call it community fracked gas, because legally what people get is 60% fossil and 37% nuclear. This practice indisputably creates less solar for all of New England than it would if we didn't do that in total. And in Vermont, several $1 million of the ratepayer dollars are actually going to support Massachusetts solar. So that solar field you see there is one of actually a relatively small in Vermont that actually helps us meet the 2050 renewable energy goals, the 90% renewable energy. So if you want some true community solar, please talk to us. Hello, I'm Doc Bagley with Catamount Solar. We are an employee-owned member co-op and based out of Randolph, Vermont. We've been in business since about 2011.
We offer numerous types of solar, whether it's residential, commercial, we've done a number of farm systems, and we're starting to work more closely with communities under the Vermont Law School Energy Clinic model for bringing community solar projects to the limelight. Only current net metering cap would be lifted, we might be able to continue on with a few of these. We've worked with the Randolph Energy Committee, had a great success there, and working with about 2 or 3 more communities to try to bring these community systems to light. We were involved in a number of the Solarize programs that were sponsored by Vital Communities. We were fortunate enough to be awarded 14 communities in Vermont. We did over 100 installations and added about 800 kilowatts to the Upper Valley's solar makeup. So that was a great collaborative effort by a lot of the communities involved. And I'm sure some others will talk about the New Hampshire side of the river. There was quite a bit of success there as well. Wanted to encourage you all to go to Montpelier if you're in Vermont tomorrow night or Wednesday morning to have a say on the new net metering laws. If you have any viewpoints regarding the direction the Public Service Board is taking, it would be a good time to voice your opinions. We have a booth over there. I don't know, we've just started a new radio. People have heard our wonderful animal. One, excellent. Well, just so you know, we're now endorsed by the Sun, so.
Excuse me, Morton Bailey from Lime Green Heat. Lime Green Heat is a energy company specific wood material that's being produced in New Hampshire and Vermont, pelletized in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. So our business is installing systems that are fully automated bulk wood pellets, just like oil is delivered into a tank and pellets into your home. We do this to residential, commercial, and institutional customers. We also install and service systems for residential and commercial customers. In the last, since 2010, we've delivered over 16,000 tons of bulk wood pellets. In the history of our business, we've offset over 2 million gallons of #2 heating oil by delivering to these institutions and homes. So we encourage you to think not only with kilowatts as electricity, but kilowatts as thermal energy as well, and realize the potential of energy production here in our own states from the forest, not only from the sun. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Kim Corp with Energy Emporium. We're located on Main Street in Enfield, New Hampshire. Our mission is to help people chart a path towards reduced or eliminating their fossil fuel usage. And we were pleasantly surprised and excited to solarize Hanover, Lebanon, and Enfield. And in the last year and a half, almost over 100 new homes with solar through those programs. It's been a great program, thanks to Vital Communities. At Energy Emporium, we design, install, and maintain various renewable energy systems, including solar PV with battery backup, grid tied and off grid, as well as solar hot water, wood solar combination solutions for heating, and we're working with heat pumps as well. And again, in the last 2 years, we've mostly been doing solar PV as part of the Solarize program, but we'll be expanding the other programs. Energy Emporium is located in a zero net energy building that I renovated from an 1850s shell. It's kind of a showroom. The showroom, you can come visit, sort of a resource center, and it's open Tuesday through Saturday. So we'd love to show you how we get all of our heat, hot water, and electricity from the sun. And finally, I just want to say there is a lot happening in the legislature in New Hampshire. There's new net metering rules going into place, being developed this year to the end of the year, and then they'll be in place at the beginning of next year. So this is the last year, I think, in New Hampshire that we'll be able to get retail one-to-one net metering. It's a great time to be thinking about going solar in New Hampshire. We don't know what will happen after that. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ralph Mima, live in Brattleboro, and I represent Green Lantern Development in the southern counties, which normally involves Wyndham, Windsor, and Bennington, although I get a bit up into Orange and Rutland, Vermont as well. Green Lantern was founded in 2010. We're based in Waterbury, Vermont. All of our owners live full-time in Vermont, and at the moment all of our projects are in Vermont. We're a full-service renewable energy developer, but just about everything that we've been doing for the past few years has been typically 500 kW projects under Vermont's net metering program. And we do everything from locating sites and taking the sites through the permitting process to managing construction, right up to the point where an array is commissioned. In some cases, we retain some ownership and operation and maintenance role in the project. In other cases, the project itself is actually sold off to investors. We also work on the customer side, negotiating solar service agreements with off-takers. Typically, our off-takers are public sector and non-profit organizations, schools, supervisory unions, hospitals, and just give you a couple of quick examples. On the site side, just within the area that I cover, we're working on projects currently in Rockingham, Springfield, Pownell, Bennington, and Guilford. And the kinds of off-takers up for these particular projects include the Brattleboro Corporation, the town of Springfield, Brattleboro Memorial Hospital, and a number of ski areas, which, as you know, use enormous amounts of electricity. And I'll finish by saying that a good site is hard to find. And the entire process of negotiating access to the land, usually we lease sites, and then going through the entire permitting process. Here are aspects that come up in our CPG application is quite complex. We work with a great team of lawyers, biologists, civil engineers to make it happen. Very actively to bring to fruition under the net metering 2.0 rules, which will kick in next year. Because of the way the incentives are being angled, we're especially interested in brownfield sites and retired gravel pits, sand pits, quarries, and other types of disturbed land, because it looks like that's where there's going to be a big emphasis. So if any of you from towns and town energy committees in particular know of such land, especially if it's town-owned and is just sitting there, currently doing nothing, generating no income for the town, we would love to talk with you. So anyway, thank you.
Hi, I'm Becca White, and I'm a community organizer for Sun Common. We're a mission-driven solar company. We believe that every single person has the right to a healthy environment and a safer world. And that the biggest barriers to going are to break down. So that mainly includes cost. That's for the average Vermonter to be able to go solar, as well as information. So hats off to everybody in the room, because if you're an energy committee member or you care about energy, I'm sure you talk to people about it. So you make my job so much easier. And then the other big barrier is people's ability to understand the project and be able to actually take that next step. So we are a soup to nuts company where we include customer service and the whole project's lifespan. Yeah.
Great, thank you to all my So now we're at this part. So, those of you who are coming up to speak on behalf of your committee, just tell us what's new, what's challenging, what's not. You're going to have just 2 minutes to do it. In fact, less than that, because I've got 26 groups from the list that was registered, and I'm guessing there's a couple of others. So if you go more than 2 minutes, we're literally going to be here till midnight. So I don't think anyone wants that. I am going to have a handy dandy stopwatch and somewhere, and a 1 minute and a 20-second marker card, so I'll help you keep on time. You all got one of these on your way in. Oh, thank you, Patricia. You all got one of these on your way in. Most of the committees that are going to stand up today and speak filled out our annual survey, so you can actually follow along and make little notes if they mention anything that's not on there. So we're going to do this in alphabetical order. For those of you who were here last year, you'll remember this. All the towns that registered are listed up here. If you are here and ready to speak and you're not on the list, that's okay. Just come up to the microphone, either at your place in the alphabetical order or and when it gets to be a couple of towns before it's your turn, go ahead and stand up and come in a line behind the screen so we can make this go smoothly. Make sense to everybody? Okay, so I'm going to go take my station with my stopwatch, and Larry's going to make his way up here and get us started with Andover. Oh yeah, they're working on that. But Bob is usually the one up at the microphone. Most of you know this. And we'll talk a little more about that later.
Is the clock running? Andover has had kind of a slow year after the year that we had round two of Solarize, when we at the end of this year counted about 30 installations in a town with 2,300 people. So we are indebted to Vital Communities for helping us out. To take a kind of a break from that, we got involved in making beer can heaters. Anybody know about beer can heaters? Most of
donate to that.
Most of the fun, it turns out. Yeah. But I have a YouTube website, a site that if anybody's interested, I'd be glad to share it with you on how to go about doing that. We've concentrated our efforts since then mainly on trying to educate ourselves and folks in town government about the advantages of renewable energy for the town. And while we haven't made any solid progress to report, we've had a lot of interaction with the wood pellet folks, typically, specifically TARM up in north of Hanover, across the river, I guess, from here, Orford. And we've talked with Clay Mitchell, anybody you probably know from UNH about municipal solar, and we're having a presentation of Wood Energy Council. No decisions yet, but I'm through.
From our cabinet, and unfortunately, we haven't done anything new as beer can heaters. So I'm gonna follow you up on that. It sounds great. We have a municipal installation, 150 kilowatt, which has just been running so well that we have excess electricity. So we have the kind of nice problem of trying to figure out how we can use some of that excess electricity. We're going to be trying to persuade PSB and Green Mountain Power to let us assign some of those extra credits to our street lights. Right now, they don't want to let us do that, but we're going to campaign heavily for that. The next thing on deck for us is a community solar project following the Vermont Law School model. And we're also really lucky because we have a brownfield site that's adjacent to our municipal right. And like everybody else, we're hoping that the current regulations or proposed regulations are moderated to make it more affordable for everybody. So, and that's about it. Thank you.
Great. And if you're coming up, be sure to come up to the front.
Bernie Folta, Claremont, in my self-appointed role as a bird dog, I've kind of accumulated knowledge of what's going on, past, present, and future in the energy arena in Claremont, so I am your temporary reporter. The big news in Claremont is that our master plan update, which has just started, has great enthusiasm for including an energy chapter, which was not a part of the master plan that was done 6 or 7 years ago. So there will be an energy subcommittee, and I see Citizen Rep. McKenzie is already expressing interest in that, and that's great. So that's basically what's happening. Now, on the city side, and I'm referring kind of like on the staff side, whom I fondly call the bureaucrats, there has been energy action. There has been LED street lighting worked on, and actually the council has authorized going to LED streetlights. The city has been, and this is going back 3 or 4 years, tightening some of its municipal buildings as a means of saving money. And the fire station has installed a wood-fired boiler. Hope it doesn't catch on fire. There was a study of trying to install solar at the transfer station site, which has a nice southwestern exposure. And from my understanding, that is not at the present time feasible because of some connectivity issues, but that was a project that was explored. And so that's what's happening. And I don't know, David Eastman from the school side is here, but I don't a report from the school side.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Evan Oxnell, and I'm here for both Cornish and Plainfield because we are now doing projects working together. A couple of things. This year we've been focusing on what we call Ready for Solar, which is a follow-up to our Solarize campaign we had a couple of years ago. And the idea there was to try and encourage the town members who didn't Solarize in the past to try and do it this year. Most of the focus there on information. We organized a presentation for the towns to talk about how they could go through and get solar in their homes. We also had a vendor exposition and invited people to that. And this was for 22 places where people already had installed solar. As a result of that, we had about 50 people at the vendor exhibition and also at the presentation we made. 17 of those signed up for more information. And these are initial numbers, these are not final, these are initial numbers. And of those, 5 have decided to install a PV system. So that's our major focus this year. Plainfield has continued to work on improving the installation of the Meriden Town Hall, and Michael Leary, a shout out for him on that. He's been working very hard with that, and we've also been working on the improvements to the town garage. Again, Michael Leary has been heading up that and getting bored all the time as a result. The other thing I need to shout out is Cornish. All 4 members of the Cornish Energy Committee came here today in one week.
Charlotte Depew, Enfield Energy Committee. We partnered with Lebanon last year in Solarize Round 3, and we came up with a grand total of 310 contracted kilowatts. About half of that has been installed. Enfield accounted for about a third of that. Our future is busy, and possibly not all of these will be accomplished. We'd like to start a project, a solar electric project for the town, and we're exploring ways to finance that before we approach the town, and that will be ongoing. We are considering attaching rather than build an energy building code supplement to our existing, we are considering a shift to applications for building applications that would be less restrictive and more suggestive. We're planning a button-up workshop in the fall. We've conceived of a loop that might interest advanced transit that would serve more of our town. Right now, about half of the town is served by advanced transit. And we're going to approach Liberty Utilities to attempt a conversion of our streetlights to LED.
Hi, I'm Barbara Duncan from Fairleigh, and I feel like we spent the greatest amount of our energy trying to convince our select board that our former landfill would be the ideal place. And we finally realized that they really didn't want it that way. It was a poor use of our energy to try. We spent a lot of time looking for sites, and the exciting news was Dory Wolf found a site in West Fairleigh. And one day when we weren't at the select board meeting, we get a note from the town administrator the next day saying, well, we signed a letter parcel over in West Fairleigh. We nearly dropped. So we are proceeding with that, meeting with yet again another town business to see whether they will back either that site or some sites for themselves. This past week we had, Sun Common had an event at the Fairleigh Library, and we have two homeowners who are getting solar for themselves and also for others, so there are two arrays there. So I'm feeling great about those accomplishments. And I would urge you, sometimes those landfills are hard. It might not be worth it. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Fitz from Franconia, up in the North Country. I'm a bit of a geographical interloper down here. But we don't have anything like this. We can get this many people together who are on the commission. There's only two commissions, and so I figured because I don't learn something I already have, so thank you. What we're doing, however, is awfully familiar. On the Franconia Energy Commission, we just wrote our 10-year plan, first plan, energy plan that's ever been in a town, the strategic plan. And we're looking into LED streetlights. Okay, so that sounds fairly familiar. On the other side, I'm also on the Amanuense Regional Energy Team, which is a group of towns. And we're just finishing our first Solarize campaign, probably our only one. We probably won't do the second one, but thank you for your help. And we're on tier 4, and we're extending it a little bit because the governor just signed off before whatever it was to extend the net metering in New Hampshire. So we're going to give it another 3 weeks, but we're on tier 4, so it's been very successful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Fitzpatrick, representing the Grantham Energy Committee, and we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary today. When we were here last year, we only had one meeting exactly. So we've been pretty busy. This our first year, we had an opportunity to meet with various town departments, selectmen, residents, to get a feeling for the support and demand for increasing energy efficiency and the feasibility of using renewable resources in town buildings and the infrastructure. We found that there is strong support, so it's been really encouraging. We conducted energy audits of all the town buildings, solar energy evaluations of all the town properties, and based on the energy audits, we initiated a few lighting projects that were voted on and approved in the March town meeting. We're going to upgrade the town office building and outdoor lighting with LEDs, and we're going to replace the street lights in town with LED fixtures also. We submitted a recommendation to the selectmen that they present the voters 3 RSA warrants, warrant articles providing tax exemption for residential renewable energy systems. And at the town meeting in March, 2 of the RSAs were passed for wind and solar, but the wood RSA was voted down. So if anybody has any advice on how to get that one passed, welcome information. Our first community event is happening next week, May 10th, and we're going to have a residential solar energy information symposium. And we're going to have installers come and also have like a 30-minute presentation to inform the residents of Grantham about possibilities of doing solar and an opportunity to sign up for solar evaluation program. The future, we're looking at getting solar panels installed on some of our town buildings, and our fire station seems to be a really good possibility. Thanks.
I'm Bob Wilker, representing the Eastern community, which is part of Grantham. At the bottom of your first page, if you read the details, a small community building a demonstration project up and running for solar panels, and also a large TV monitor inside the building so people can see what's happening and how much electricity is being produced. Since Eastman is a not-for-profit corporation, what we did is form an LLC so that 5 or 6 families within Eastman put up the money for this project so they could get the federal and state rebates or tax credits. And we would like for that to happen for a much larger array in a piece of land that's called a stump dump in Eastman. We just have to find the money to do that. Eastman has a 2020 plan, and a major part of that is a reduction of the carbon footprint. And so we'd like to think that this small pavilion array that's described on the page is a different kind of energy source for the center at Eastman, which is under great renovation to the tune of $4.5 million. And there will be solar panels on there, as well as using the high efficiency heat pumps to at least use some heat for part of the building. And we are joining with the Grantham Energy Committee for next week's May 10th item, the residential solar. And finally, the South Cove Activity Center, which is a major place of activity. When it was built several years ago, it's a LEED gold level certification. We just had an audit done on that, and no further action needs to be taken to make it function better at this time. So that's it on Eastman.
This is our Hanover constituent. No way? All right, so Alan Johnson from Hartford, and there's so many more things going on. I'll pick one from the past and then 3 moving forward. So the big thing that happened this last year was we brought almost 1 megawatt of solar online, thanks to Grow Solar on our cap landfill. The town is buying all of that electricity. Moving forward, we've got a big project coming up with Efficiency Vermont and the Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm kind of calling it an energy blitz at this point. And White River Junction, which is one of 4 Vermont state designated downtowns that will be participating in this pilot program that aims to integrate sustainable energy solutions with downtown revitalization efforts. Next is, moving forward, we've got, toward the end of last year, Zero by Degrees working with Brent at Building Energy and Chris at Dynamic Integrations, completed 2 net zero energy building plans, which is the new term we'll be thinking when you're planning to do energy on buildings or anything for that matter. And that was for 2 of our most complex buildings, our public safety building, which is our fire and police building, and our Bugby Senior Center. And we're gearing up to take action on those. And most excitingly, dovetailing beautifully with those last 2 items, is Hartford is successfully engaged, after years of trying, you've heard me talk about it, with Vermont Energy Investment Corporation for a planning project. 1, complete a 5-year energy action plan detailing strategic investment in the town's energy future. 2, identify, prioritize, and oversee implementation of town energy-related projects, beginning with the implementation of those 2 audits I was just talking about. 3, outline Hartford's comprehensive energy plan in alignment with the Vermont CEP comprehensive energy plan, with goals and strategies looking ahead to 2050 long-term strategy for the CEP will address all energy use in town and the community as a whole across all sectors, not just municipal. Thank you.
I'm Carl Chemnitzer, and I'm speaking on the Energy Committee, but I've also got a few other organizations in Sierra Club to cover, so I'm going to click just the high points. I've been working on weatherization along with solar and transportation, so I'm just going to do the renewable energy and the transportation because the weatherization is not as exciting. When I wrote my town report last December, I was surprised at the growth in solar. We now have 3 150 kilowatt arrays installed, and a 4th is waiting to break ground this summer. After starting planning in 2012 with Montesquieu Hospital in Windsor, they finished a 5th 150 kilowatt array this winter, and in addition, there are 2 smaller 45 kilowatt net meter group arrays in town. So allowing for smaller residential systems, we're probably approaching 1 megawatt of solar in town. There are currently 2 projects going on. We are taking part in our 4th round of Vital Communities' previous Solarize campaign, which is being run this time by Sustainable Woodstock. And also a homeowner has asked us about a true community solar array. I'd like to see a small community solar array on every road. I need to take a moment here and recognize some important work that's been done by others that hasn't been acknowledged yet. In addition to the solar, Heartland also has 3 privately owned small hydro plants of 1/4, 1.5, and 4 megawatts for a total of 5 3/4 megawatts. The town's average load is a little over 3 megawatts, and we have long been an energy exporter. In 2013, I helped the town, the school, and the owner of the small dam put together a contract for running the town buildings on. This was similar to the early solar power purchase agreements that were being developed at the time, but with help from Vermont Independent Power Producers Association, working with the owner of the dam to write a contract worded for hydro. The second thing I'd like to mention is transportation. This is the elephant rule for energy use and 46% of our emissions. I have had great fun bicycling around in my solar electric car at the V-Trans last summer with Senator, Vermont Secretary of Transportation, taking a test ride. But there's a huge amount of work still to be done. As a representative for Sierra Club Vermont chapter, I've been working with Dave Roberts of Drive Electric Vermont to promote electric vehicles. The National Sierra Club has a very strong EV program and is preparing to defend the multi-state zero energy vehicle memorandum of understanding as it comes up this year. This ZEV MOU has a goal of 35,000 EVs in Vermont by 2025, or about 15% of new car sales. However, to meet already pledged regional climate goals, Sierra Club, Conservation Law Foundation, and Acadia Center have calculated that about 1/3 of all vehicles will need to be EVs by 2030, along with a strong, rigid greenhouse gas emissions program to keep their fuel clean. If you'd like to help with this, Sierra Club is now looking for volunteers to visit EV dealers in Vermont and then take a 10-minute survey about your visit. Look for a program called Drive Electric Shopper, Rev Up EVs. Closer to home, Vital Communities has 2 transportation people, Bethany and Aaron, that are working with the Go Vermont State program to reduce emissions. They enthusiastically helped me run a smart commute survey last summer. This survey has questions about how people are driving and how aware they are of bus ride options. I recommend doing this survey. They let me customize the survey with 6 bicycle questions, which had a very big response. Vermont has a state on-road bike program that is currently redesigning state roads for better bike and pedestrian use. And I gave the results from our survey to them to help prioritize the work. Phase 1 of their program has been completed. And Route 5 from St. Johnsbury down to Windsor has now been designated a high priority. Changes in our transportation system now, and even if it's only a bike lane, connecting path, bus shelter, EV station, or sidewalk at this stage, if you know of something that would benefit your town, now's the time to talk to your town's transportation advisory committee person before the on-road bike plan ends. Thank you.
Hi, Clifton Below, I chair the Lebanon Energy Committee, and also city councilor. Last year, I was working with Infield on the solarized Lebanon Infield at this time. Last year, we had about 16 systems totaling about 80 kW. Today, we have about 46 systems and about 320 that are under contract. Our goal was to double, we actually tripled, so that's good. We came out of that and used the vital communities that helped develop a strategic energy action plan kit, and worked through about 13 possible projects, looked a lot at our master plan. We narrowed it down to about 4 or 5 projects as our top priorities. Developing a city plan for energy infrastructure, which includes looking at all of our renewable and energy efficiency options. In particular, we're working on assessing city sites for PV. Using our landfill gas itself is probably enough to satisfy the city government's total electric use, and then some. And promote renewable residential energy efficiency, renewable energy, and promote community conversations around energy. Coming out of this already, we've seen that there's 2 other things we need to work on. One is zoning, because our zoning doesn't actually allow for renewable energy other than for on-site use. And in conjunction with that, I want to mention that 2 weeks from tonight, or from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, on Tuesday, May 17th at Lebanon City Hall, there's going to be a program called Solar 101 for municipal officials, and it's about planning, zoning, permitting codes, everything municipal officials and energy committees need to know about facilitating solar. I also might mention that because of my background as a former public utilities commissioner, the city authorized me to intervene on behalf of the city in the new net metering docket, which will determine long-term net metering tariffs. So I'll be working on that over the coming year, as well as participating in a grid modernization working group that the PUC is also sponsoring. So if you're interested in that, you can be in touch with me. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hess, speaking on behalf of the Energy Committee. And we have a lot of irons in the fire, but I'm just going to focus on 3 of those tonight. The first and foremost is our LED streetlight project, which just received conditional approval from the select board. And we negotiated a rebate with Eversource. We plan to be installing 120 LED streetlights between now and the end of 2016. So that's project number 1, and then project number 2, putting in our first electric vehicle charging unit. And just curious, room, raise your hand if you do. Wow. And are those cars here tonight? All right, excellent. Well, I don't know if you've noticed the map of charging stations, but there is absolutely nothing along I-89 between Lebanon and Concord, and we're hoping to do something about that this year. We have several post properties in mind, and I'll fill you in on those if you're interested. And then the last and most important is our electric vehicle fair, which will be happening on the 11th of September. And we'd love to have all of you come, either with an electric car or with interest in electric vehicles, including bicycles. And come see Dave or Peter or Lisa or me. We'll give you a little handout about the event and hope to see you there. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm Brad Beachy, representing a new group in the town of Newberry. On your little map, we're the furthest north green town on the Connecticut River. Not Newberry, New Hampshire. And we were asked if there was a core group that wanted to sort of reconstitute an energy committee that had kind of dried up. And we met a number of times to talk about what we had as personal goals, and it turns out that the transition model was a better fit for our interests because they were wide-ranging, and the constrictions that are placed on an official town energy committee were not in keeping with our thinking about what we want to do. So we have local food to local currency to transportation issues and things that are a little broader than the strict confines of an energy committee. So the answer when Sarah emailed was, no, we don't have an energy committee yet. And we have a group that's struggling to find a name. So we're calling ourselves for the moment the Newberry Transition Group, and we'll hopefully come up with a sexy acronym like NEATO or Groovy or something like that. It'll be more fun to talk about. We're starting with small projects. We've had so we're a brand new group, and we're starting with local food infrastructure, and in particular, the place where the dart hit the board was to work with our local elementary school and recruit gardeners in town to grow food that would be desirable and useful in the lunch program at the Newberry Elementary School. We're also looking at 2 greenhouses in our 2 local high schools, one in River, and whether they would produce vegetable starts to help promote that program. So we're getting off to a start. I have 3 seconds left, but I also teach astronomy and astrophysics, so I want to talk about lighting initiatives. Really good idea, but be very careful that you don't double or triple the amount of light and create a much larger light pollution problem while solving the fossil fuel problem. The big, big pitfall there.
Hi, I'm Linda Gray from Norwich. I have 4 projects to talk about. So our first is we are on our 5th year of doing a solarized effort. So we just started that a few weeks ago. And I think we have about 150 homes in town that have gone solar over the past X years. We have a grant from Vermont to put in an EV charging station in our village area. It will be in Danwood's parking lot. So that's in process, so look for that soon. In February, thanks to a very special donor, we were able to do a LED bulb exchange. So we had people bring in 2 incandescents and we gave them 2 free LEDs. That provided us essentially with a great opportunity to talk to people, have conversations about their home energy use, etc. So we, I think, generated a number of home energy visits and some audits from that. And then the last thing I want to mention is we've also tried to pay attention to different statewide policy things, and I would urge everybody in the committees to do that as well as the individual efforts, because the policy provides a background for the work we do, and it's really important to stay on top of that. Thanks.
I'm Emily Bryant with the Orford Energy Committee. And we were project in the round 2, and like Andover, we're kind of trying to figure out what to do next. And we thought about the Strategic Energy Action Plan, and with a new person coming on the board, we realized that we didn't have a mission. It was hard to organize around a mission if you didn't have one. So we're sort of in the process of rebooting, and we have made a mission, and we sort of formalized the study so that those of us on the committee aren't feeling as if we're going to die and we're still on the committee. We now have terms defined and so on. So once we've done that, we will proceed on to finding out what to do next. Thank you.
I'm Pete Dillman, Randolph Energy Committee. First, I want to thank Sarah and Bob for putting this on. This is really a terrific opportunity for us to get together. I hope that doesn't count against my time. It is really recently with solar. We went through Solarize. We have a town solar array, or on town land anyway. The town gets a piece of that solar, and we just put together a community solar project, which came together last December. We're working on another one, which is sort of stuck in the water with the Green Mountain Power net metering cap. But so we've kind of done the solar thing. We also have a solar siting forum in December. We're moving on to a new a new focus, I think, as an energy committee, and looking more weatherization side again. And that has a lot to do right now with the Energy Vermont pilot program, which is run through our CDC development group. And that's reaching out to local businesses and also local homeowners to tighten up their homes, figure out whether they need energy audits. We just had a home energy visit training with Paul Markowitz from Efficiency Vermont. So we're kind of refocusing on the weatherization side of things. The town itself is actually looking at kind of prioritizing town buildings, what needs to be tight audit, needs to be done on which town buildings, and focusing on finding out where the best bang for the buck is as far as getting that work done. And we're also looking further this year to put an energy chapter into our town plan. Transportation is another kind of project on the horizon, and the Zero Energy Now program is something that we recently learned about that we're looking to investigate further to kind of leverage our weatherization efforts. Thanks.
I'm Dee Gish with the Sharon Energy Committee, and the Sharon group has tried to refocus on building community and building in our 10-bedroom community. We noticed that we needed some more community events and ways to get to know each other. So this year at the town meeting day, we hosted a breakfast, which was very well received. We hope to make that an annual event. We also hosted a seed swap at our local library a few weeks ago for gardeners in our community to get to know each other. We have been working with Vital Communities and also Stagecoach to improve the transportation system on the I-89 corridor, and that will continue this summer. And we're also hoping for electric vehicle charging station in our town. We're kind of low on parking places in our town, so we're kind of waiting for the results from V-Trans study to expand our park and ride. Thank you.
In Vermont, and this past year our committee has been working on writing an energy chapter for the town plan, and we actually finished it and had it approved by the Planning Commission. In partnership with Efficiency Vermont, we've had an energy audit for the town library done, and also a lighting audit. We, again, in partnership with Efficiency Vermont, we sponsored a cold climate heat pump workshop. And for the first time ever, because we pestered the town manager, we have a line item in the budget to do for energy project as an energy project reserve. We do have a plug-in charging station for electric vehicles that was just completed this past summer. And we looked at our energy chapter. We said, okay, is this going to be just a chapter, or are we going to do something about it? So we're working on developing an implementation plan for our energy chapter. And we're trying to figure out who does what. And I don't know if other people have encountered this problem, but in the town, sometimes it's like, it's a little bit territorial. We're trying to figure that out. Thank you.
Hi, Dory Wolf from Stratford, and two things I just want to mention broadly, which is how important energy committees are to affecting change throughout the state, because if you in your energy plans make it susceptible or make it good for renewables, and you get the town to embrace that, siting becomes less of a challenge. So it's really important that way. And also, don't be afraid of having an energy committee be broad, because when you do things like local foods, you're keeping energy dollars local. You're keeping transportation projects, because we have a dedicated woman wanting to do it, was an edible pocket park. And it makes it so you can picnic in town, it makes it so you can eat from local food right there. So any of that is good energy work, so don't feel worried about broadening your energy committee. We last year brought on a community solar rated powers that brings net metering credits to the town, the school, and 3 area nonprofits, so that was exciting. And the Masons building got a weatherization thanks to the New England Grassroots Fund. And this year, like we did with Solarize, we partnered with Thetford. We're partnering with Thetford to work on a community solar array that's like the Randolph project, so we're model.
Hi, Bob Walker with Thetford, and we're just about to start round 2 of a project we did a couple of years ago called Volunteer Assisted Weatherization, where we get some money to buy the materials, pay a contractor who's going to be Brent Mellon doing it, and then get volunteers to come in and do the weatherization improvements. The twist this year is we're working with the Pompano Community Trust, which is a local nonprofit that's set up to take contributions, donations from businesses and individuals in town that are charitable contributions and channel those to a charitable project in town. So basically it's a self-funded weatherization of a low-income home in town. We are working with Stratford on the Thetford Stratford Community Solar. We've been working for a while trying, where it's boy, the mind goes. And Barbara, thank you. We've been working on trying to get a solar project down a landfill for a long time, and it's we're hoping maybe it'll go forward, but it hasn't yet. We also, like Norwich, thanks to the idea, got a donation to buy 500 LEDs and are giving those away to low-income homeowners. And that's all for Thetford, and now I have one addition. I'm working with the Building Professional Performance Association, which is the trade association of the home performance contractors in Vermont, to help promote the Zero Energy Now program, which is very exciting. It will allow homeowners, anybody who lives in central Vermont public service territory, what used to be that, to have access to up to $5,000 of additional incentives above all of those others that are out there to help install renewable heat and renewable electricity. And so if anybody in any of those towns wants to help promote that project, I'd love to talk to you and help get that going.
Hi there, Andrew Hatch, Washington, New Hampshire Energy Committee. It's been a pretty good year since we were last here. The first thing is we contributed for the first time to the 2015 rewrite of the rolling 10-year master plan and had our own dedicated energy chapter. And because not too many people show up at the public hearings, we got some pretty radical line items in there. To wit, we also now have Al Krigoris, who's been the longest serving member of our, as a selectman. Yeah. And I'm on the planning board, so watch out. Following that, in the fall, we were glad to receive a New England grassroots seed grant for purchasing a thermal imaging camera. And I'm working with the Dumbarton Energy Committee to hone my skills in that area. We were also provided advice and some assistance from Cutler and White River Junction on moving forward with the weatherization project, particularly for low-income families. And again, those programs are nascent, but we're hoping to bring back some more statistics for you when we see you next year. At the end of the year, the town garage, who had initiated an original solar array that we've had in place for 6 years now, referred us back to a failed attempt at an LED retrofit. People had to believe that we could get a 50-50 grant
came back, they gave us something that's about 8% of the cost of the project. So I've got to get on them next. Thank you.
I'm Julia Lloyd-Wright from the Energy Coordinator for Wethersfield. Big news is that we decided to work together. It was a miserable year last year. So we worked on this mutual plan, and the select board agreed to put an article on the ballot for an energy reserve fund, with a caveat that I had to come up with money to. So we now have a new town manager and 2 new select board members, so maybe things will spin off. So I'm working with the new town manager already on consolidating the heating system office. Still recovering from Sunrise. We're not successful with people in heat pumps. But we're also community solar. We've had this location for a while, and we were looking, I talked to I can't remember what's the name of the system we're working on with the model school. We were going to use their system, but it seems to, we need a simpler way to organize so that I don't get caught up in too much work. But anyway, we're trying to get people to now do what Cavendish was thinking of doing, buying their own panels and then setting them up on at this location. Another thing we've been working on, EV, solar in town. People put in systems that are too large. Some are designating to their neighbors, and so anyway, Cavendish, if you'd like to do something with your solar, we're right next door, and we could take your surplus.
I'm Vic Hall from Windsor. We participated in the Solarize over the last year, and with surrounding towns, mostly the Scotland was quite a success. But instead of talking about the nuts and bolts of our energy committee, which has kind of been in a lull since then, I want to talk a little bit about the ideas around what all of us here do. And I personally moved to the conclusion that I've heard a few other people talk about, that energy is just part of the bigger picture of sustainability. And that's sort of where I've been focusing my energy, so to speak. I think that after Solarize, and I wonder if this other played earlier, there's kind of a lull and a vacuum. But I think there's also in our town created a huge awareness and a lot of interest, even as so far as the select board, town manager, but not. So that's a big opportunity for us at Solarize, was create an awareness in the town, so that I think we do have a lot of opportunity now to build on that in a lot of directions. And I just want to end with something that I've been wondering about. Why do we have such a huge fear of taxes? I lived in England for a year, and I love the Brits. What's that? Why are they interested in salt?
Well, I'm going to follow up without an accent. In fact, I'm originally from Connecticut, and I've been told that people who are from Connecticut have no accent. I've been recognized as a Connecticut person because of that. I represent Sustainable Woodstocks Energy Group, not just Woodstocks. And we went through round 2 of Solarize through other communities, and we are now on our round 2 of Solarize. And we're working, our first round was just talk, we're branching out with Heartland, and we have Reading, and we have Bridgewater, and we have Barnard, and we have Woodstock. So we're keeping Catamount very busy. We have a lot of places to run around. Sustainable Woodstock's Energy Group is still looking for a place for a community solar array. By the time we find it, there probably won't be any net zeroing, so it'll be fine. And we are also investigating with our transportation to Woodstock, an EV charging station for the town. And I also just want to extend an invitation because the third Thursday of every month, we have green drinks at Worthy Kitchen. So if anybody would like to join us, it's fun. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Judy Kalla, and I'm not from an energy committee. I'm with the Sierra Club Upper Valley Group. And I just wanted to tell you about a program that we're involved with, and hopefully, at some point anyway, we'll be able to collaborate with many of you on. The Upper Valley Sierra Club Group, in collaboration with Energy and Climate Upper Valley and the Denali Meadows Institute and Next Gen Climate, applied to the National Sierra Club to be part of something called the 100% Cities campaign. This involves St. Augustine in Miami, Florida, Alexandria, Virginia, Cleveland, Ohio, 4 cities in Colorado, the Bay Area, Oakland primarily, Boise, Idaho, and the Upper Valley. And the purpose of it, nationally, there are 2 goals: to be 100%, to get a commitment from towns throughout the country and cities throughout the country to be 100% renewable by 2050, and by 2030 to be 100% electric grid, renewable grid with a 50% reduction in fossil fuels. This seems huge. The purpose of it is to get a commitment from we're in the planning stages here in the Upper Valley, but as of last Friday, our first goal is to get the town of Hanover and the Dartmouth College to be 100% renewable by 2050 for all 3 sectors, electric, heat, and transportation, and to have 100% renewable grid by 2025. The whole purpose of getting the commitment, as opposed to having a plan, I thought, how are you going to get these towns to commit if they don't have a plan? Folks said, it's a little bit like having a baby. If you had to figure out every decision you were going to make before you had a child, no one would ever do it. So this is a moral imperative to move forward in ways to get there, and we're hoping by the town meeting in 2017 to start with the citizens of Hanover. Thanks.
I am in this category. Again, my name is Rob Werner. I'm the State Director for the League of Conservation Voters in New Hampshire. I also serve on the City Council and chair our Energy and Environment Committee. In March, City Council approved a 2 megawatt project, solar project, to be placed at our wastewater treatment plant. We entered into a power purchase agreement with Unitil and are contracting Solar City. And that project should be constructed October, November, and it will take care of about 40% of our city's electric bill. And now we've got to figure out what we're going to do to carry the other 60%. But it's a good start, and I just wanted to let you know what was going on in Concord.
I'm Nick Cohen from Plainfield, New Hampshire, working with the New Hampshire Sierra Club. We work more on a statewide basis. Just want to give you some idea of what we've been doing. Right now, we're rather heavily involved in the Beyond Coal campaign, trying to retire 2 coal-burning power plants in New Hampshire, which are old and polluting, and of course, inefficient, and trying to push for renewable power production wherever we can. We are trying to put together a distribution program for LED domestic lamps, as we did with compact fluorescents about 10 years ago, just distributing people to give them an idea of what they were like and how good they are. I'm hoping that LEDs are going to catch on the same way. And then we have the usual preservation programs, forest protection, and then animal rights and things like that. And there's also an effort to cut down on this, what seems to be a surge in the development of pipeline installations for the distribution of natural gas. But basically, the Sierra Club wants to end the addiction that we have for fossil fuels and move toward other things.
Hi, I'm Red McKenzie from Claremont, and I'm just starting to get involved in energy in my area. And one of the things that we're doing in Claremont is we have a book group, and we're talking with people. You know, we go to the film, this changes everything, and we'll be doing more of that. But broaden the topic here just a little bit and talk about one of the things that our book group is studying right now is the Transition Handbook by Rob Hopkins, published in 2008. It's a little bit old, but as far as the concepts go, encourage all of our energy committees. I heard messages about having a look at that we need to do to create community and also to develop economic systems that include all of those within our communities. So I highly recommend this as a conceptual framework for us to look at for energy, and thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Haley Perro, and I'm visiting from Bernie Sanders' office in Burlington. Thank you all for these updates. It's always such a pleasure to come here each year and hear what the town energy committees are doing and hear about your on-the-ground work. So pretty good. I did want to let you know about 3 bills that he introduced at the end of last year. Just didn't get lost in the shuffle. They were introduced in December. The first is the Clean Energy Investment Act that would permanently extend quite a few renewable energy credits, including the solar ITC. It also would make them refundable, so that nonprofits and churches can take advantage of that incentive. He also reintroduced the Climate Protect, which would put a tax on carbon. It would reinvest some of the revenues, and would also work on climate resiliency. And then the Clean Energy Workforce Just Transition Act, that would be parts of the country with lots of fossil fuel, and that would help them transition away from that industry. I have the legislation with me. I'm sitting in the back, as well as Bernie's from the end of last year. Thank you.
Okay, so here's a contrast. My name is Lynn Sweat Miller, and I have been working for the last few years in developing a project I'm calling Our Hybrid Lives. And in particular, I'm focusing on what it takes to think differently about our world, and in particular, how do we build our creative capacities. So with that in mind, I would like to invite people to come to my house, where I have an interesting mix of garden and whatever, but it's a work in progress, and we're definitely not energy as efficient as I'm sure most of you are. But I have 2 gatherings, one that will be this Sunday and also on Sunday the 20th from 4 to 6 p.m. And this concept has been floating around, and I just decided to do it, called Tea for the Climate. Social, fun, hang out in the garden, have some tea, bring something to eat, and actually get to know each other in a non-political, non-policy oriented kind of way. The other will be in July, something I'm calling a Summer Climate Creativity Camp. And it will be 5 days, 2 hours every morning. And the goal will be to look at your writing using photography and imagery, and also your senses with some cooking, to time people to take a break from some of the stresses in the world and come together and think differently about our space and place. So if you're interested in either of those, these are both new ventures, and I'm casting out there and seeing who comes and seeing what happens. But I plan to have a really great time. And so I've got some little handouts with it, so come on if you'd like to. Thank you.
My last one.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm George Twig. I'm with Congressman Peter Walsh's office, state director, and I also cover energy and environmental issues. The legislation I'll mention is a large package of energy efficiency legislation that had House. And recently, the Senate version, which Senator Shaheen has been working hard on, just passed the Senate. So we're hopeful that the two chambers will be able to get their and come to some agreement on that. It's a lot of fairly modest provisions, mostly related to energy efficiency, but what we found working in Congress is that energy issues are all extremely controversial, but energy efficiency tends to be an area where even Republicans have been able to work with Democrats because it's just the financial benefits, if nothing else, are really obvious. So we continue to work on that and hoping to get on the Conference Committee as the bill finish line. Then also spend a lot of time just working with the administration to protect the initiatives such as the Clean Power Plan that the Obama administration is trying to push forward in its remaining months in office to really cement some important climate change initiatives at the federal level. So if anyone's interested in details, especially about the omnibus efficiency bill, I'm glad to get your information and send that to you. Thank you.
Well, we made it. That was fabulous. And as these things go, we are happy to go over if we have as many groups as we have today. I'm going to ask my roundtable organizers to come up and join me. We're going to really quickly run through a couple of things we need to know. And we're not stuck. We're going to send you some information by email to follow up with us. So, losing your way up. Our roundtable organizers are the 3 regional planning commissions in our area: Two Rivers, Upper Valley Lake Sunapee, and the Southern Windsor County Commission. Mike McRory should be here, but he had to run home because he's got a sick kid. But he wanted to be Upper Valley Lake Sunapee. That he is very happy to work with energy committees on the New Hampshire side, and he also wanted me that our other friends mentioned, the Solar 101 for municipal officials. I'm going to be sending all of you information about this after this event, but it's on the 17th of May. It's a Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. and you should send your municipal staff leaders, even yourselves, to this. There's going to be a really great presentation about what you need to know as a municipality to put solar in your community.
To just New Hampshire?
No, it's actually anyone. There are pieces of it that are New Hampshire focused, but the majority of the material applies whether you're New Hampshire or not.
Hello again, I'm Dee, and I'm representing the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Commission in Woodstock, and we cover 30 towns in the central Vermont region. And last year at this time, we introduced to you a pilot program that was funded by the Department of Public Service, where 3 regional commissions in the state of Vermont, ourselves, Bennington County, and Northwest, are working on a regional energy plan that seeks to achieve the comprehensive energy plan goals of 9% renewable energy by 2050. So we're working on that. We currently have a draft that will be posted to our website in a few weeks after we received comments from our commissioners last week at our meeting. We're trying to get out all the typos and then we'll publish that on our website. Then we'll have some public forums later in the year for towns in our region to comment on the regional energy plan. And we'll also send it to the state for their comments. And the project will wind up in February of 2017, where we'll have a regional energy plan. And Johanna Miller later on in the program is going to talk about more details of this, but it covers thermal, transportation, and electricity, and also provides maps in our region of areas for siting for renewable energy. That's it. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dan Potter with the Southern Windsor County Regional Planning Commission. We are the next RPC on the list for the project, the BPS funded project that Dee described. So we hope to start that in the next month or so. Additionally, our executive director has been very involved in Vermont Senate Bill 230, which is the solar siting bill. Hopefully that will get passed this session. And then finally, we've been working with our towns to do town plan energy chapter updates and helping them wherever we can. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Lee Cameron. I'm with the New England Grassroots Environment Fund. And we're a nonprofit organization that supports grassroots groups working on a broad range of sustainability issues, including energy and climate. And we have a variety of different resources available to support groups. But the one that I'm sure you're all most interested in is our small grants program. So we do have funding available for many of the types of projects that you all are working on, and we would absolutely love to be supporting your energy committees and groups. We have two grant levels. One is up to $1,000, and it's available on a rolling basis, so you can apply at any time. The second level is up to $3,500, and we accept applications in the spring and fall. And then I'm also excited to share that we are launching a third level, really geared towards collaborations between multiple towns. So that's something to look forward to as well. And then it's exciting to hear that a lot of you are also working on sustainability more broadly. So just to let you know, we do have funding for local food, new economy, and other sustainability issues as well. We also have a training series, and that includes online webinars that are all free, as well as in-person workshops really designed to meet the needs of your local group and community. So if you're interested in the training to help support your work, please feel free to let us know, and we'll provide funding and trainers and work with you on that. The other hat I wear is the coordinator for the LES work group in New Hampshire. So it's an ad hoc network of a variety of different energy professionals and organizations working together to support local energy action. Take a look at our website, it's nhenergy.org, and there are a variety of different resources there. And you can also find all of the members of the work group on that website and their areas of expertise and their contact information. So you can reach out to them directly if you have a question, or reach out to me as well, and I'm happy to help you. There's several resources there, but just to let you know, we have an annual energy conference, a regular newsletter, and also an energy-focused webinar series. So a great way to stay connected to local energy issues in New Hampshire. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. It's so fabulous to be with all of you good people here tonight. I'm Johanna Miller. I'm the Energy Program Director at the Vermont Natural Resources Council. We're a statewide environmental education and advocacy organizations. And one of the big pieces of my work is coordinating the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network, which was co-founded by fabulous people like Bob Walker, who looked at energy committees as leaders in their communities to really get at energy issues broadly. It's also supported by some of the other fantastic hosts here this evening. A couple different things about VCAN. We support energy committees all across the state through resources, events, networking, programs, state policy. December 3rd is our annual VCAN conference, right close to here in Fairleigh, just putting it on your radar. But if you're not connected to the VCAN newsletter and network, you can visit us at vcan.net and get on the newsletter to get connected to those resources and to each other. We have a list of energy committees there, so if you're not, we connect with you to make sure you are. Two other things I wanted to, or three other things very quickly. There's also a significant effort underway led by some really grassroots leaders in this room, supported by a diverse coalition of businesses and low-income advocates and organizations like mine to explore putting a price on carbon pollution in the state of Vermont. We'd love to work with New Hampshire on this initiative and work regionally to get it right. It's a policy that could reduce greenhouse gas emissions, grow our economy and clean jobs here in the state, reduce other taxes, and if shaped right, and we are committed to it, alleviate the impact on low-income earners and bring them along in that transition. We have some information over here that I'm happy to hand out to you. Two other quick things. Net metering, it's been mentioned here a few times, but Vermont's net metering law is being overhauled right now, and the rules are being written for what a post-2016 or post-era number 1 on net metering looks like, and really important for people to be weighing in. Tomorrow evening in Montpelier, there's a public hearing at 7 o'clock at the high school. The next morning, there's an event at the Public Service Board. I again have some handouts over here that Ben can give you, but long story short, it went from a pretty bad net metering rule that would really slow or stop the deployment of this really successful program to but the opportunity is here, especially with informed people like you, to continue to help shape it and make sure that it remains a strong but fair and balanced program. So again, we have some thoughts on this handout over here in terms of the very specific things we hope this new rule is actually enacted. And then lastly, I just want to put it on your radar because it's also come up here several times this evening. Electric vehicles. There was a provision passed without any testimony, I believe, in the Department of Motor Vehicles fee bill in the Senate, which is going to put an increased cost on electric vehicles and plug-in electric vehicles. So I wanted to put it on your radar, both A, to say if you're concerned about this, Vermonters, you should really be making a call to your elected officials. And then secondly, also just to sort of underscore the importance of sort of staying tuned into the public policy making arena, because informed and engaged folks like you are really key to making sure that our legislators understand your goals and your issues and your concerns and shape public policy in a way that really responds to that. So without further ado, Sarah.
So now I'll give you the quick Vital Communities highlight. Oh, thank you. And you hear this from me all the time, so I'll be kind of brief. We have 3 projects going right now, and I'm just going to give you the clip notes, and then you should come talk to me afterward. We are, over the next couple of years, going to be working on closing the education gap on modern wood heat so that everybody knows that it is possible to get a pellet wood heating system that could replace your oil system and actually be pretty renewable and great and local. Second, we're looking to do something like solarize, but weatherize. That's going to look different, but we're going to work on that. We've already brought a team together of the industry and some of you in the room and program partners to figure out what that would look like. That might come down the pike next spring. And third, we're looking to do something on real estate, specifically green real estate. How can we help buyers raise at time of sale? How can we help sellers and buyers use things like home energy storage to actually understand the value of energy efficiency? So those are our eggs in the crock pot, so to speak. You also know, Bob thinks that was a horrible analogy. It was. One of my colleagues from New Hampshire, Scott McLansky from Jordan Institute, couldn't be here tonight. They asked me to tell the New Hampshire folks that commercial PACE is slowly up and running. Both Hanover and Lebanon are talking with the Jordan Institute about this. This would be, if implemented as dreamed, no cost up front, financing over a long period of time for cash flow positive projects, and it would be on your tax bill. So it would stay with the property rather than with you or the business. Now, if you are in Hanover and Lebanon, you should make sure that you find out about how that's rolling. But come talk to me if you're curious about CPACE. And then finally, you all know that recently, Bob Walker and I decided to kind of officially join forces. We've been working together, Surge and Vital Communities, for many years. And over the last year, we officially became one. So Surge sort of ceased existing as of January 1st, and all of that great work is now at Vital Communities. And Bob is a free man working as a contractor very closely with me and also other organizations, mainly across Vermont, to continue the work that he's doing, but in a different capacity. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to ask Joey to come up here again. So I'm sorry, Bob. He hates when I do this. But you all, so I'm just curious, how many people over the course of the last decade of Surge have been helped, supported, guided by Bob Walker? Woo! Right? Thank you. That's what I thought. And how many of you think that we could be here today without him? I didn't think so. So I'm going to hand it over to Joey for a moment.
So this is just a quick and unabashed sort of recognition, appreciation, and celebration for all of your leadership and years of service, and hope that you will continue to dabble in between some well-deserved time off and playing in the fields, forests, and mountains that I know you love so well. So we just wanted to say thank you so much for what you've helped catalyze and underscore our commitment to living and building upon your fabulous tradition. So with that, we wanted to offer you a little gift of thanks from that know you and love you and really have appreciated the opportunity to work with you. So we have a little gift for you, which is a Sabre Field. Come up in a day. Fabulous fellow.
A lot of you know that I get emotional sometimes, so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you, because really it's all of the work that you're doing that, you know, I'm so grateful to have been able to be a part of helping to get it going. Without all of you and all your work, you know, nothing would be happening. And it's so inspiring to see so many people and hear all the great work you're all doing, and it makes me feel good about the little part that I've done. So thanks.
Thank you for helping with our surprise. So now we are going to get to the final portion of the evening. Could I get our three panelists to come up and join me up here? We are going to keep really true to our time, panelists, so we can still have good time for Q&A before we finish up around 8. But let me move ahead and introduce these folks while they organize. So we had several of the committees in our annual survey this year comment on things that you are all doing around local policy. And at the same time, I started hearing some really great examples of what's happening in our communities, really creative ways to help local policy work in our favor. So we're going to have a little showcase here for you. We've got 3 speakers. We're going to first hear again from Joey Miller, who's going to give you a quick summary of what solar siting is looking like. And specifically, we're talking about what we can do at a town level to put guidelines in place and structures in place to understand, you know, how we can influence where solar goes or does not go. Then we're going to hear from Charlie Forsey, all the way from Durham, New Hampshire, and he's going to talk about some really interesting work that they've done to add an energy addendum, essentially, to their permitting process, among other things. And then we're going to hear from Sue Prentice from the Lebanon City Council, who doesn't come to this from an energy point of view, but does come to this from a city councilor point of view and has some thoughts on how we could avoid missed opportunities by getting our energy committees to work more closely with what happens within the municipality. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Joey to get us started.
Okay. I'm going to give you 1 minute warning. Okay. Can you do my little presentation up? Yeah. Okay. So really quickly before I begin, just to note that Chris Sargent from Two Rivers Otakuchi Regional Commission is supposed to be here this evening and giving you more of a deep dive on the specificity related to the plan. So I'm going to do my best to channel a bit of what his expertise would bring, but also to sort of bring it up at a little bit of a higher level, and definitely a higher level from what our next 2 presenters will be speaking to in terms of what are some of the conversations happening right now around local, regional, and state energy planning in the state of Vermont. And I'll hope to speak to a little bit of things related to what might be of interest to New Hampshire residents as well. But again, just to sort of set the broad context, the state of Vermont has set some very ambitious energy goals, as many of you know, in robust stakeholder processes. Those goals are to meet 90% of the state's energy needs, all energy, heating, electricity, and transportation. 90% of all those energy needs by 2050 through renewable resources. Clearly, that's going to take a significant commitment to conservation and efficiency, but it's also going to take a commitment to investing in renewable energy, building more projects in state, and also sourcing renewable supplies from the region or beyond. But so long story short, in terms of couple different things that I wanted to speak to today was in particular, and I'm going to weave back and forth a little bit, was referencing the really exciting effort that 3 regional planning commissions are undertaking right now, funded by the Vermont Public Service Department. So the department armed these 3 regional commissions with some funds to sort of figure out how the heck can regions play a role in being partners in helping the state get to that important goal. And so again, the frame is the 90 by 2050 and other energy goals in the state of Vermont. But the goal is to ensure that regions and municipalities figure out how that happens in a more proactive and underscore here. So pretty soon all regions in the state of Vermont are going to be undertaking this very process, and it is also that planning component is the sort of core component of the renewable energy siting bill that's under consideration at this very moment, probably still in the legislature. It's the renewable energy siting bill. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but core component of that bill is to focus in on how do we help regions do more enhanced energy planning in a way that balances multiple different goals, from protecting natural resources, to protecting scenic vistas, to getting projects built on places that communities prioritize. We heard it earlier, it's hard to get projects on landfills, but can we figure out ways to do those kinds of locations in a different way? And then ensuring that they are partnering with their municipalities to figure out how the heck we're going to get to our clean energy goals. So these RPCs are sort of leading in an analysis of what are the existing resources and programs. They're going through, as Dee mentioned, sort of a stakeholder public engagement process, convening experts in their field and local input, and the goal of, again, addressing thermal, transportation, and electricity issues. So figuring out how we're going to improve the building stock of our buildings, how are we going to transition from fossil fuels to heat and cool our buildings, how do we help people get around by building more compact walkable community centers, or figuring out ways for them to use more fuel-efficient vehicles or carpooling or transit solutions. But where there's big sort of conversation, again, related to siting is how can we figure out where we want to build and deploy projects in the state of Vermont that, again, really balances a variety of different goals. And so one of the core foundations of the RPC enhanced planning process currently underway, and again, which is the foundation of the construct in the energy siting bill, is to have regions go through a planning process to figure out and outline how they're going to meet the state's energy goals. So that includes identifying new generating capacity by town. This is an example, and I have to give the Bennington County Regional Commission just gratitude and credit for this presentation. I borrowed this from Jim Sullivan, who's the executive director of the Bennington Regional Commission, and his presentation on this is phenomenal, and and other RPC leaders have been very active, involved in the siting discussion in the region. So these are the numbers from Bennington County, but I just wanted to use it as a snapshot of essentially laying out town by town, the population of that town, identifying prime solar, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how they came to those numbers there, identifying prime solar in a one mile radius of 3-phase power lines. They did a count of their existing installations. They did a count of existing solar capacity, and then they identified what they thought each town could potentially or could provide to help add up to the county and then the state's cumulative renewable energy goals. But they're not just looking at solar. They're undertaking a very sort of robust energy resource mapping exercise that is predicated on a variety of things, including this LEAP energy model that VEIC has been using in partnership in this effort, which really examines different kinds of scenarios. They've also been harnessing tools like I note here, which includes Agency of Natural Resources BioFinder, which is a really, again, robust sort of layering identification of various natural resources and other important sort of environmental constraints to really give communities a sense of where might we want to avoid sort of siting projects and how might we want to consider and make sure that those resources are identified upfront to inform developers and partners in this process about guide them as they choose projects. Because as we heard earlier, some sites are better than others, and many sites are hard to find, or good sites are hard to find that really marry, you know, solar access and solar gain with access to transmission and that sort of thing. So they've been using this tool for all of these different resources. Am I doing on time, Sarah?
Yeah. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Oh gosh. And then what they did was sort of identified what they're calling level 1 and level 2 constraints. So level 1 constraints, as you see here, were floodways and river corridors, federal wilderness, rare and irreplaceable natural areas, vernal pools, class 1, class 2 wetlands. And those level 1 constraints, they essentially took them off, put them off limits. So we're not going to develop here because those are too important. They also identified level 2 constraints, which I will show you in just a second, are shown in the maps in color, but those include ag soils and habitat blocks and hydraulic soils and conserved lands and flood hazard areas. And what they did was, they mapped those to identify, sort of highlight the places that were sort of prime solar opportunities. The prime solar opportunities in this photo are shown in yellow. And they took out the places, I believe that those are in white, that are sort of off limits for a variety of reasons, including largely just topographical. And what they did is analyze, you know, they looked at, and you'll see it here, this is the big circle is the amount of land area in the Bennington County Regional Commission region. The next circle is the amount of land area which is considered prime solar, and then that little dot is the amount of land area that would be needed to get Bennington to meet its sort of allotment of renewable energy for their region. So I wanted to show this to you because, again, this is sort of the foundation upon which the energy generation siting policy, the energy siting bill is founded. And really quickly, before Sarah puts me out of here, I know that I'm running out of time. Related to that, I just want to lay out two other things that are significant in the siting bill, which is, this is a huge piece of it, getting the enhanced planning right so that we can guide communities and regions in being partners in this process in a way that really works well for them and underscores and celebrates a variety of different values. But another piece of this, which we've had to really fight for, again, really important to underscore, being active in the public policy making conversation. They had a preferred locations pilot in there for places, developing projects on the built environment, like landfills and brownfields and parking lots. We all know, I believe, that those projects cost a lot more to build for a variety of reasons. And so incentives that really help make that possible, including through the standard offer pilot program, were really important. Stay tuned about whether or not that actually stays in the bill, but that would be a very big and important piece of it. And then lastly, another significant piece of that conversation has been around wind and how, and if Vermont develops wind, but I believe what will come out is a sort of a sound standard for wind, essentially directing the Public Service Board to come up with final rules about sound levels in the state of Vermont that would be applied to any potential future wind projects. So I can talk more about that later, but I'm done.
And I should, while Charlie's getting up here, mention that she's really pinch hitting. I called her this morning at about 10 a.m. to say, can you talk? Because Chris is sick. So this is incredible. Yes. Charlie. I'll get your slides up.
Hi, my name is Charlie Forsey. I'm the chair of the Durham Energy Committee for 1 year. So as all of you know, I'm standing on the shoulders of at least almost 10 years of other leadership and activism and incredible grassroots support. from our town, Durham, New Hampshire, right near the seacoast. And so I'm also incredibly humbled to be here and incredibly excited because I'm the first coordinator of the Seacoast Regional Energy Hub, supported by the Local Energy Solutions Group in New Hampshire. And we have a roundtable scheduled on June 11th, where we think, if you remember back to your earliest days, where we think maybe 20 people will show up. I've been to 5 energy committees personally. We are incredibly excited to meet each other, literally for the first time. And when I look at this room and when I look at the energy and the learning and the acceleration, I'm just in awe. So it's an incredible honor to be here. I'm going to try see how this clicker works. Great. What I'm going to offer here in just 8 minutes is really some conversation starters and quite literally some cries for help in other areas around policy. The talk is going to be basically a flip book of our normal work as an energy committee, and then a slightly slower dive into some of the policy areas that we've been beginning to focus on and do to amplify our work. Just to give you just a tiny bit of context, Durham is a college town with UNH in it. It's a funny mix of a small town with just 5,800 full-time residents, and then an enormous group of undergraduates and graduate students, bringing us up to a pretty big town, 17,000. We have some big infrastructure. We also have some very small town politics and some very small tax base, as you can imagine. What success Durham has had has been this partnership between our town administrator, who puts carbon footprint in every footer, a town council that sets it up as a goal almost every year, and especially this year, and a very supportive Department of Public Works, code officer, town engineer. It really is a terrific team. We also work with our other committees, and I can't stress enough the importance of these other groups in picking up and leading on many of these issues. What Durham Energy Committee did was to, like so many of you, we had a project orientation. We did the traditional Energy Committee things for the last 9 years, and we will continue to do them with all of our energy. We really have a metaphor like personal health or personal fitness that you want to do simultaneously. Reduce your energy consumption and improve the quality of it. It wouldn't make sense to eat less but eat junky food, just like it doesn't make sense to use less energy but continue to get it from the most harmful sources in terms of carbon and environmental impact. What I want to talk at the end about is ways that, in addition to project work, permanent policy changes or quasi-permanent policy changes can reduce barriers to those projects themselves and begin to lift the community up a little bit, let the community solve its own problems a little faster. The first kinds of projects we'll do, and this is really going to be a flip book, we did a lot to profile, like many of you, the quantity of energy we use. And I'm just going to throw out the stock carbon calculator. There's a carbon map replacement for it. EPA's portfolio manager was incredibly important for us for weather independent figures. And we also produced, so we profiled our town as an important first step. We worked very hard on our portfolio manager to do weather independent and square footage independent comparisons. Those comparisons helped us understand what the old town hall compared to the new town hall, which was LEED silver, is costing us on a per square foot basis. Tricky problem to compare 2 buildings over 2 different winters with different usage patterns, and the portfolio manager is really the key to that. We're also working hard, like many of you, on electric vehicles and reducing the 35% of our energy use estimated that comes from transportation. So we installed with a New Hampshire grant an EV charger, held a big Drive Electric event, which is great fun, and we're going to do that again this year. Our other big efforts, just to flip quickly, is to improve the quality of the energy. we know that buildings take up 74% of our energy. Vehicles take up 21%, and streetlights take up 5%. And we've gone through LED conversions of our historic district, now our leased lights, and we've worked very hard on whatever energy audits and energy efficiency programs. And whatever we couldn't reduce, we were now working on a goal, like all of you, to get that onto renewables. We started with our first PPA on 3 buildings, including our hockey rink, with Revision Energy. And it was basically our hockey rink, our library, and our police station. And now we're working on our second PPA with the support from the PUC, a $500,000 grant, and a lot of politics. Thank you to all the politicians in the room. It takes an incredible amount of focus and energy to make these things happen, and we're incredibly grateful for our supporters in the State House. And this will go online this summer. It's a 640.5 kW array. That will cover 100% of our town's non-wastewater meters. If any of you know how much energy wastewater plants use, you know that's a big if. That's about 60% of our usage, but we're working on that next. So that's the classic project base. We're going to work on our wastewater treatment plant and a whole number of other transportation walkability projects, just like all of you, and I have pages of notes from the things you've all suggested. The other thing that's accumulated over the last few years is a particular solution to what may be a New Hampshire problem. And that is, I'm quite envious as I look at the map of some of the policies that are across the border. You may have heard of cross-border envy. New Hampshire has smaller incentives and more lax codes in many areas, not all. And the one thing it does have, and I just stress this for all the New Hampshire towns here, it has a absolute religion of local control. So in almost every New Hampshire law, there's a little clause in there that says the town may exceed this if they want to. And it's a beautiful clause. So we started with an energy master plan to kind of get our priorities straight, and a whole chapter, our first one last year. We also created an energy checklist. The idea was and I'll click to that. The idea was to have in one 3-page document, which is available for download for people who want to rewrite it and send it back to us, done well. It was to gather up all of our advice and all of our recommendations. The other thing we did is we can recommend people do things, but it would be great if we had the latest energy code. This is a luxury. The 2015 IECC code is a luxury over here in Vermont. We're on the 2009. It's about a 10% efficiency from the 11% average efficiency from the 2012 to the 2015, and an even bigger jump from the 2009. Long story short, we created passed an ordinance, which was extremely, passed unanimously, that we simply declared Durham will be the only town in the 2015. That's me. And I encourage any New Hampshire town to look at that. Lastly, we declared ourselves in Climate Zone 6, and which is great. That means they have to meet the higher insulation, and that brought every project up since then. And I have examples of the ordinance and examples of the language and the other things ready. We took all this and we got places in the energy planning process, and we're working now on, these are just where I was warned about too many slides, and here we are. We're also working on other ways that policy can remove friction. So we're working on our old solar permitting and our new solar patient of campaign. Tax exemptions are another part of this, removing friction. The goal of this is to do our projects for the municipality, to do solarize, but to simultaneously lower the friction for everyone to take action themselves when they interact with our town. So that's it for me, and I'm happy to, like I say, it's more of a cry for help, for advice, and other suggestions. Thank you.
So I should mention, we're gonna have all this stuff up online for you and sent out by email. So you'll get all those links, and Charlie is more than happy to send you all the templates you've created, right, Charlie?
Yes, absolutely. Open source forever.
Did you get the clicker?
I do.
Click ahead. There you go.
I love clickers. So again, my name is Sue Prentice, and I'm a city councilor in Lebanon. I've been on the council for, this is my 8th year. By way of background, I am a career paramedic. And I'm retired from a public safety position in the state of New Hampshire and currently work as a manager in the emergency department at Concord Hospital. I share that with you because I wanted you to just kind of get the picture that I've grown an interest in this area, but I came to the council and to public service with, looking through a different lens. And it's important to remember that many of the people that volunteer and run for office in your community are coming from all these different lenses. But something caught my attention along the way, and I want to tell that story. So I don't know about you, but I have this little secret where I read the last chapter of the book first. So I'm going to tell my story slightly backwards about how this all comes together. I think that the city of Lebanon should have a policy, and I started working on this project, and that's what brought me to Sarah and here tonight. We should have a policy where anytime we are renovating a building, building a new building, purchasing goods and services that have anything to do with fuel, energy-related issues should be vetted through and reviewed by our Energy Advisory Committee. So how did I come to that point over a period of 8 years? And it's sad to say that in the 8th year, I'm like, this is something we really need to do. And Cliff Bilo, who's here, is somebody who's been, a colleague that I've discussed this with along the way. It all comes together starting over with LEAC. So we have boards and committees in the city that people raise their hand and volunteer for, and there's an official appointment process. So you have, the Charlie Overstone, you have the planning board, you have the zoning board, conservation commission. We used to have a recreation commission, public safety committee. We had a number of committees, and we didn't have enough people who had the time to be able to join these committees. Even though they wanted to, they were well-intentioned. We know the pressures of the world today. People were always coming in and wanting to work with LEAC. And what struck me over the years and continues to are the people with technical expertise, that have real depth in this, who are raising their hand and volunteering their time to benefit their city government, and their residents. So that has, along the way, caught my attention. Then other things come together about contracts and purchasing. We have which is not unlike the policies that I dealt with in state government, where when you are making a decision to buy something over a certain amount, there's a process that you go through, and it's not always geared towards the best product, what will last the longest, what will be the most efficient. This isn't just about energy, this is about everything. Many times it's geared towards what is the least expensive, the low bid. So you're balancing, the tax, what people are paying to live in your community, and what they see in that initial purchase versus the long haul, the long view, the big picture. So when we're looking at goods and we're looking at services and we're looking at projects, the current policy takes us down one over time. I've become to think that that's not the best route. We're not looking at some of these words or phrases are new in my vocabulary, but basically the life cycle costs. So I've come to understand that. Looking at current process, now I mentioned policies around contracts and purchasing. So I want to talk about current process a little bit. Buildings, whether they're going to be renovated, new buildings coming online, the current facilities themselves are managed a number of different ways. We have a public works department that does some of the general maintenance, but if you're in the library oversees the library. And if you're at the fire station, the fire department pretty much oversees the fire department. And if you're at the police station, again, in terms of the facilities, they're looking at their own piece. That has come to, really caught my attention in the last few years, that each of these groups, even though they have an intersection with public works, they are making decisions about new windows that they're going to purchase. Do they need a new roof for their building? The police station is a recent project that Cliff Belo has really helped the city with, where we're looking at the police department thought that they needed a new roof. And really, they don't need a new roof as much as they need to have a more basically energy efficient environment, and then they will not need to replace their roof. But we had to work it backwards to find that out. So there are these silos that take place that don't necessarily all come together. The other thing, so I'm trying to intersect all of these points, that's a current process and separate from buildings, and this is where we start to line up the role of LEAP, is that anytime we have a zoning, so I'm going to take almost like a left-hand turn here and I'll bring you back in. When we have a zoning map adjustment that is proposed, when we have, let's say, a zoning ordinance adjustment that's proposed, so there's going to be any changes, this is just one particular area to zoning, it has to come, it starts at the city council, and then what we do is we set a date for a public hearing, as if we're going to move this forward, and then we push it by process out to all the different land use boards. So the planning board and the zoning board of adjustment and the conservation commission all look at these proposed changes. So current process, the silos, the reviews that take place, thinking about the way that we buy things, either goods or services, and that we build and renovate, starts to all come together in the middle with the council and city government. This year at our budget process was the time that this all came together for me. We were looking at fuel costs. And, again, I keep referencing Cliff, but we talked about the police station. We had talked about new windows for the fire station. I can remember in the last few years talking about a new boiler purchase for the library that was made for anybody who had an interest as well as expertise around buying the most energy efficient, long view, life cycle cost value, was looking at this. So in this year's budget process, it was like a light went on. We were looking at fuel costs and the contracts and how we had locked in at a certain rate, and potentially looking at this, and this was kind of at the end of the process rather than the beginning, and that's what we'd like to change. We saw a considerable amount of savings that we could have put into place if folks with the expertise and the background in this had been looking at this from the beginning. So sadly, after all these years, looking at all of these different points, what came together for me is why doesn't the planning board, why doesn't LEAP act in a similar role on the board of the Conservation Commission when these projects are proposed, when we need to set our contracts for our fuel costs in city government? All of those pieces need to come together somewhere. So it was like this light went on, I'm like, this should be the same. I made an initial pitch and said, I'm going to start working on this. I didn't have any pushback. My next step, besides talking to, was to write and say, before I go too far with this, what is anybody else doing anything like this? So, we've come to a place where we don't see something that's exactly the same, but I'm in a position now where I'm actually going to move forward and get this on the agenda, and we can line these two up to be the same. So that's my story from the back, from the last chapter to the early days of this, and I really want to thank you for the opportunity to come and share it. And I'm sure over next year you'll hear about our success moving this forward. Thank you.
Great, so we've got about 12 minutes to do a little bit of Q&A. So if the panelists would here, please, we can go ahead and do that. So, any questions to start us off? Way in the back.
Repeat the question for me.
The gentleman from Durham, you spoke about energy tools to assess a town's energy capabilities. In the handouts that you're bringing, will those tools be provided, or are these guidelines on like practice tools on a town basis? Because we're finding to give you a at the individual building level, but at the town level, it's not an easy process. And so There's so many energy commissions here. Do you have any
The county's wondering if the resources that Charlie mentioned are going to be available. The answer is yes, and Charlie can add that.
Sure, specifically to the question, as you said, tracking a building, tracking even a campus is covered by Portfolio Manager, and some of the better known tools, they'll certainly all be listed. The one we're looking at most closely is put together by UNH called Carbon Map. It's a big brother on the web to the small town carbon calculator, which was an Excel-based product. So it's both spreadsheets and websites, but I'll definitely reference that Carbon Map.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi, I wanted to talk with Joanna Miller. I have a question about, do you know if anybody on any organization or person is working on the carbon tax initiative in New Hampshire?
Question is whether there is any work on a carbon tax in New Hampshire. Not to my, I will actually turn it over to Ron.
There is a group called Citizens Climate Lobby that you might be familiar with, and from my way of thinking, that's the group that immediately comes to my mind in terms of working on a carbon tax. And their model is called fee and dividend. So you would have a carbon tax, and then those revenues would then be returned to the taxpayer. It's a little different than some other folks are thinking about it, but that's their model. That's the group that comes.
That being said, if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you because there is an effort and a coalition in Massachusetts, bills introduced, Rhode Island, bill introduced in New York, sort of a regional approach. It's more preferred than a state level, but we actually done a rigorous analysis and think it can work in Vermont, even if we go alone.
Ralph?
Yeah, I'm going to step out of my role as a sponsor and exhibitor here for a second. I'm a member of the committee for a long time, and we, at our meeting last night, we had a very vigorous debate about whether or not, as a committee, to take a position on Vermont's carbon tax. And we had a bit of back and forth about that. And I said, well, we took positions on PACE, and we took positions on solar taxes, and carbon taxes is just another public policy instrument, so why can't we do that? But the ideological tensions were much stronger in our little committee. However, and one of the, in Brattleboro, one of the questions that quickly comes up, they don't have it across the river in New Hampshire. And everybody's going to go across the river and shop in New Hampshire if we implement this. So I'm just going to throw this out there. If eventually a coalition of energy committees were able to unite in not just New Hampshire and Vermont, but also Massachusetts, to kind of express support for carbon taxes, but also express a kind of step forward together, not affect the playing field approach, I don't know how the state politicians could ultimately resist.
I will, excuse me, I will just say point well taken. That being said, it obviously is a politically charged issue, so the need to sort of educate, inform, engage is also really important. I mean, so we should explore when and if it's right for energy committees to do that. At the same time, again, as conduits to folks in your community, the goal is to have a fair conversation and focus in on how can we shape a policy right that is a positive benefit to the state of Vermont. And we need all Vermonters engaged in that process. And we are doing deep outreach to the low-income community, to the agriculture sector, to the business community, and to understand the implications related to our porous borders. We still think, and we've been given good reception from those constituencies, that people understand that this is inevitable. It's not whether or not we are going to put a price on carbon. It is about when and how that happens. So in Vermont, being proactive about it, our goal is again to get it right. And I'm happy to entertain various ways to engage and inform folks to move the conversation.
I see Alan.
At the risk of hijacking the conversation to carbon price for the rest of the evening, which I would not object to because it's the single most important thing that we can do, especially in Vermont, given the winter we have. I just want to point out that what's actually being proposed in Vermont isn't specifically a carbon tax. What's being proposed in Vermont is a tax reform bill that happens to include as part of its portfolio a price on fossil fuels. And here's why that's an important distinction. Economics 101 says that imports make sense if and only if you cannot produce those same goods and services locally at a lower cost. This has been the case for fossil fuels for decades, but right now it is no longer true. We can produce the services and the quality of service better locally, cheaper with renewables than fossil fuels to be imported into Vermont. And be clear, we do not we import all of our fossil fuels in Vermont and most of the fossil fuels in New Hampshire. So it is a very basic economic argument to stop paying more for fossil fuels. You know, forgetting about all the externalities, forgetting about, and here's my question, I hope you'll speak to all of the other dramatic economic benefits that come to put a price on fossil fuels.
So I'm actually going to suggest that we table the carbon tax conversation. Thank you, Alan. Question in the back. Oh. Kim.
I'd like to ask a little bit from Sue and about LEAC and how the rest of us should, other towns might be able to get involved in that. Sounds like your energy committee is turning to an advisory committee, and you're trying to get them to advise the product life cycle of anything that happens in the town, sort of thing. I mean, that's how you describe it. I think that's my own.
I always think that I'm loud enough, so I'm shocked when somebody hands me a microphone. I think that the smart thing to do is to, as again, all of these issues continue to circle around, I think that we've been making even well-intentioned purchasing decisions about the buildings are heated, about their roofs, about their windows, and a whole host of other things without this other leg of expertise, and when we being LEAC, and we depend on these land use boards, rightfully so, to guide us through other issues. It just seemed to line up to me and be a really practical, common sense approach. And I think one of the one thing that they didn't say, I think I may have tried to say it, hopefully not in an effective way, is that I came to this without a background in energy, and it's really the dedication and the expertise of this group has really piqued my interest. And then I saw these opportunities, and I think what's important to think about moving forward is that, I didn't come to it with the city council with a passion in, in energy work. I came with this public, but look how, it's become important to me. And I think when you look in your communities, you can find people that on your select boards and your city councils that you think are in one particular camp or have a great interest in one area and may not see or want to get engaged in your issue. But I think twice about that. And this is leading me around. And it's really LEAC that has done it. So yes, I think they should serve in that role. They should look like the future, like the land use board, and look at any of the times that we're going to do something that has to do with building, renovations, energy, etc.
We intersected at the building permit place. Anytime a planning board approval, they have to meet with us. And there's something called a technical review group, which includes kind of technical representatives from fire, police, DPW, and the energy committee. And that's a really neat group to sort of be available whenever a project comes.
I have this question for Charlie. So it's in most of the smaller towns around here, we don't actually any occupancy inspection before there's a certificate of proof that there are statewide codes, but that towns have no enforcement. So obviously, I want to confirm, Durham has enforcement, right? So you're in a different position than many of us are.
Yes, we have a code officer and we definitely have enforcement. So it's a medium-sized town luxury to have that. Yep.
Dan, are we done?
Oh, sorry, I haven't liked it.
That said, I think it would still be legal potentially to declare yourself as part of this code and have it be, whether it's moral suasion or some kind of influence, you could join that movement. Durham is the only one. We'd love company, even if you're not going to enforce it. We'd love people to see it on the books and people to know that at some point, you know, they built something that wasn't to that currently enforced code. So there might be interesting things there. I'm sure others know better.
We have time for one more question. Steve.
Sorry, I just have a follow-up to the energy planning side of things in Vermont, because the bills that are currently being legislated, it might have been decided tonight, I'm not sure, but it has provisions for regional planning commissions to help their towns, has some funding for regional planning commissions to help their towns with energy planning. And if towns go through that energy planning and get a certified energy plan, then they will receive substantial deference for Section 248 proceedings, for citing proceedings. If they have approved plans, then they'll have more say in citing issues with the Public Service Board. So I just want to add that addendum. So stay tuned. It might have been passed. I'm not sure. Maybe Joey has gotten a text.
Okay, so yes, that's a big piece of the bill that I didn't have time to speak to, but if you do this enhanced energy planning at the municipal and regional level, you will receive substantial deference. So it's really important. I guess what I just wanted to underscore is the significant importance of being active participants in that process, as the department develops criteria whereby they will ensure that RPCs have the guidance that they need to be accountable to our state energy plans. And then after that, or even before that, if you're a municipality that's incredibly invigorous, be sure that you're actively participating in the planning process, both at the municipal and regional energy level, to ensure that regional and municipal plans can meet several different goals, including the need to get off of fossil fuels. And one thing that I didn't note is that VNRC, my organization, worked with the League of Cities and Towns and put together this energy planning and implementation guidebook, which is a guide to how to actually update the energy element of your municipal or regional plan. And it may also be a little bit relevant to New Hampshire folks in terms of good principles. And we have some of those, some information on our site, website related to how do you actually focus citing conversations and decisions. So I wanted to just make sure that that was on your radar, but just underscoring the importance of being very active participants in the process, because this is going to define how or if we meet our clean energy goals.
Great. So we reached the end and we are actually on time, which is fabulous. So, yeah. So before we go, as I mentioned, we do have to be out of here all cleaned up by 8:30. So if a couple of the volunteers in the back would start pulling out chair racks, the rest of us can help stack chairs and hold up tables. But don't move yet. The next thing you need to know is that we have all of your emails. We'll be sending you an email in the next couple of days with a link to a website that will have all the presentations and all of the references that you heard today. So definitely follow us for coming.